Next, I want to talk about the idea of white privilege and what that is and can look like. So, as a person that is of Jamaican descent, I walk around the world and I have a different experience than someone who is, say, a white man, for instance. When I walk places, some people may follow me. If I'm in a store, they might follow me, might give me a little bit of extra attention. And sure, you could argue that they're trying to give me the best service possible, but there are many harmful stereotypes that come with people of color that is perpetuated in books, in movies, in the news, things like that. And more or less, they view Black as something or someone that is possibly going to steal from them, things like that. Whereas if a white person just walks in, it's normal, it's just like, hello, let us know if you need anything. However, with a person of color, it's there's more attention on them. I also think that if you are using your privilege, I've seen lots of videos in the States mostly of people of color who are raising their fist and they stood in I believe it was at the White House, and they were just peacefully protesting with their fist up, and the police were advancing to that person of color really aggressively. Then as soon as their white friend or like a white counterpart came and stood in front of them, it was like a spell was entrancing them, and they stopped. Like their speed and agility sort of ended and stopped. So it's just interesting to recognize the programming that we all have and how we react to people of color versus people who are not colored. I think that that is important for you to just realize and have an awareness, because even though you might not be aware that what you say or how you're thinking is possibly rooted in racism, it's just having an awareness of the implicit biases that you might have.
Hi, my name is Catherine Jenkins. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm one of the co-chairs for the Vancouver Pride Society.
And I'm Michelle Fortan, the other co-chair of Vancouver Pride, and my pronouns are she, her, hers as well. We're bringing you a message from the entire board, and we want to thank you so much for joining us for the 2020 edition of Vancouver Pride. We want to acknowledge that we're holding this event on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. We acknowledge and recognize that the sacredness of this traditional land and ancestral territories where we work, live, and build community.
We strive to remain humble and open in our continued learning of the impacts of colonialism, both historically and currently, and how we honor the land, people, and the communities we are fortunate to work alongside. We're grateful to the First Peoples of this region for stewarding these lands since time immemorial, and we're grateful to gather here today, together to share space.
Well, here we are, in the midst of the worst viral pandemic in a century, finding ways to adapt. It was only last year that we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots in New York City. They're often viewed as the start of the modern gay rights movement. And while Stonewall was a momentous milestone in our shared history, really it was the sustained momentum of the activism, advocacy, and pride that followed that's moved the ball forward in terms of queer and trans human rights. Over the past few months, we've been asked by Indigenous, Black, and people of color around the world to stand in solidarity, to join in the call to dismantle the systemic racism that exists everywhere, even here in Canada.
Too often, erasure of experiences of those facing intersectional oppression is common in our communities. While a key part of early activism and advocacy efforts, trans people, and in particular, queer and trans, Black, Indigenous people of color, weren't partners in the fight for human rights and often excluded from early Pride events. Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term intersectionality to describe the overlapping discrimination faced by Black women on the basis of their race and gender, where their combined effects of both types of oppression are greater than either in isolation.
So Pride, it's going to look different. We're mindful that many of the people feeling the full impact of COVID-19 on their physical and mental health, economic livelihood, and their ability to access gender-affirming health and wellness services are LGBTQIA2S+ folks. They're people that are facing additional barriers due to homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, and other forms of oppression as a result of their gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. How we come together this year must look different, but we still must come together. Solidarity, connection, and joy remain integral to our communities. Our joy is revolutionary. Our communities have always been resilient, and this crisis, it's no different.
There's an expression that hindsight is 2020. It's a time to think of what we want to leave behind and what we want to bring with us into this new world that's being shaped by us collectively. In solidarity with everyone in our beautiful, diverse community,
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, everyone. Welcome to virtual Vancouver Pride. My name is Kendall Gender, and hosting with me today is the fabulous Joan-E, Empress 28. Joan-E is an inaugural member of Canada's Queer Hall of Fame, a past Vancouver Pride Grand Marshal, has received the Golden and Diamond Jubilee medals from Queen Elizabeth II, and was acknowledged on the floor of the Canadian House of Commons for her work raising money for HIV and AIDS, an overall icon.
Oh, thanks, sweetie. And thank you, Kendall. This is Kendall Gender, and I'm honored to be with my beautiful niece. I'm really excited to tell you a little bit about Kendall. Kendall Gender has become a drag force of nature. She is a founding member of the highly successful Brat Pack. She's the reigning Empress of Vancouver and became the first artist to perform the halftime show at Rugby Sevens game at BC Place. And we're so proud. She recently raised $8,000 doing an online fundraiser, Visible, which raised awareness and donations for Black Lives Matter. And indeed, Black Lives Matter.
Of course they do. Of course they do. We do want to invite all of you at home, no matter how you are watching. We are streaming on many different platforms. We're streaming on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube.
And you can also, if you'd like to watch on your TV, if you have TELUS Optic, it is channel 345 on TELUS Optic TV.
We are on every screen you can imagine.
Yes.
At this exact time last year, the parade would have just started, and the Dykes on Bikes would be hyping up the crowds along the parade route.
This year looks a little different. We are virtually at Jim Diva Plaza,
Yes.
and shout out to the late great Jim Diva, pioneering hero in our community, who I considered a personal hero. But Pride is both a protest and a party, as Jim would tell us if he were here. And Pride is also about honoring our roots, commemorating our wins, and imagining queer possibilities in the future.
Pride is about taking a breath to live in the moment, joyous, unapologetic, and taking up space in a world that says we should not exist. Pride is a community.
Totally. And we're joyous and unapologetic.
We are. The sun is shining in Jim Diva Plaza. We are living.
Living. We are going to be kicking off the day by learning about the past 40 years of Vancouver Pride's history. And first, however, we have a few announcements.
We are streaming live today, and as you all know, live shows can be a little bit unpredictable. So make sure to check out the banner below. We'll be streaming to this link all day. If you do happen to lose your connection, check back with us at this link or watch in the comments on Vancouver Pride's Facebook for how to find us again, because you don't want to lose these beautiful faces.
Yeah. And if something goes wrong, just blame Joan.
Okay.
We have a wonderful ASL interpreter, Melanie and Jillian, that are here with us today. They're going to be doing interpretation and captioning, and it is made possible by our accessibility partner, TD.
Okay, well, I'm feeling ready to learn some Pride history, Joan-E. How about you?
Sure. That sounds fabulous. Stay tuned, everyone. We are going to be giving away some fabulous prizes in about 15 minutes. But for now, sit back, enjoy the show.
There's still an awful lot to do. Even 50 years later, there's a lot more we have to do, particularly on trans rights, but on LGBT rights in general.
The first Canadian law condemning homosexuality came into force in 1841. At the time, such a crime was punishable by death. The sentence was later reduced to imprisonment. In 1890, a new crime was introduced: gross indecency between male persons. The crime was extended to lesbians and heterosexuals in 1953. Despite the risk of imprisonment, in 1958, Ted North did something remarkable. Ted, accompanied by a few supporters, stood on the steps of the Vancouver courthouse calling for an end to discrimination against homosexuals. Ted bravely held up a sign that read, "I am a human being," while wearing a dress and made up to look like legendary actress Gina Lollobrigida.
In 1958, they stood on the steps of the Vancouver courthouse. It was illegal for a man to impersonate a female or a woman, and we were required by law to wear 3 items of men's clothing.
In 1965, Everett George Clippert was the last person in Canada to be arrested and imprisoned for gross indecency. A court-ordered psychiatrist assessed Everett as incurably homosexual, and he was registered as a dangerous sexual offender. Everett appealed to the Court of Appeal for the Northwest Territories. His appeal was dismissed. Mr. Clippert then appealed to the Supreme Court of Canada. His appeal was unsuccessful, and he was sent to prison indefinitely as a dangerous sex offender in 1967.
We continued to campaign, to write letters, and it was not long before our actions caught the attention of Tommy Douglas and a young Pierre Trudeau. We believed in Trudeau, and we worked very hard to support him as he made his way through the halls of power.
The day after Clippert's conviction was upheld, NDP leader Tommy Douglas brought forward Clippert's name in the House of Commons, asking Minister of Justice Pierre Elliott Trudeau if this matter was being considered by officials in the Department of Justice. Within 6 weeks, Trudeau presented the Criminal Law Amendment Act, Bill C-150, an omnibus bill, and on May 14, 1969, Canada decriminalized homosexual acts between consenting adults. The act received royal assent on June 27, 1969.
Take this thing on homosexuality. I think the view we take here is that there's no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation, and I think that what's done in private between adults doesn't concern the criminal code. When it becomes public, this is a different matter.
So his comment reverberated around the world. No other prime minister or president had made a statement like that before, and I think all of us were aware of what that statement meant. So I'm quite sure that it was part of the releasing of the avalanche of desire for freedom that led to the Stonewall Rebellion.
The Stonewall riots, which took place in 1969, were led by Black and Latinx trans individuals. These riots helped propel the modern gay civil rights movement from assimilationist tactics towards unapologetic pride. These riots worked.
In 1969, when homosexuality was decriminalized, Prime Minister Trudeau personally called me. I answered the phone, and I didn't have a secretary in those days, so I had to answer the phone. But he didn't. He warned me who was on the phone. So I answered the phone and was greeted as Your Majesty. And I responded, "Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister," just as the Queen of England would do, because I just thought that was a queenly thing to do. It was a moment that I cherish to this day. Whoever thought that a man in a dress would be greeted in such a way by the Prime Minister of Canada?
This is the very site that some of those very first protests here in the city were held. Those protests, of course, looked very different from how many of us choose to celebrate Pride today.
It was with great pride that we saw him eventually elected Prime Minister. And to this day, I have always fond memories of that man and what he did for us.
In all of our hearts, from the moment he
I'm saddened to inform British Columbians that a hero for human rights and lesbian, gay, bi, and transgender equality has left us. At 6:10 a.m. on Saturday, Mr. Ted North passed away. He's left a legacy that should inspire us all. Born in 1937 in Alberta and raised in the Fraser Valley, from a young age, Ted knew he was different. He was a gay man in a country that still forced gay and lesbian people into jail, shock treatment, or worse.
Ted organized the first Pride March in Canada. He created the Courts of Canada, the first Gay Businessmen's Guild, the first Gay Sports League in Canada, and co-founder of the Greater Vancouver Native Cultural Society. He held the title of Empress of Canada for 50 years. He was a leader in the fight against HIV and AIDS and the advancement of LGBTQ rights. And he helped define the modern LGBTQ community and human rights movement in Canada.
On August 28, 1971, approximately 100 people from Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, and the surrounding areas gathered in the rain at Parliament Hill for Canada's first gay liberation protest and march in support of a brief called We Demand. Simultaneously, another group of gay activists demonstrated in Vancouver.
I remember I went downtown Vancouver in 71, I think it was, and I saw a group on the courthouse steps, and it turned out to be GAY, to the Gay Alliance Towards Equality, a demonstration of a few people, maybe 30 people, and a crowd of about 200. And I was across the street. And when I realized this was a gay demonstration, I thought, how brave they are. Oh, I could never do that.
Vancouver's earliest Pride celebrations began when the Gay Alliance Towards Equality, or GATE, organized a picnic and art exhibit in Sepperley Park. A month after the first Pride celebrations took place in 1973, NDP MLA Rosemary Brown reaffirmed her support for protection of LGBTQ individuals from her riding in Vancouver Burrard. Rosemary Brown made history as Canada's first Black female member of a provincial legislature.
Indeed, I'm twice blessed. I am Black and I'm a woman. And to be Black and female in a society which is both racist and sexist is to be in the unique position of having nowhere to go but up.
Even though lesbians from the LGBTQ+ community were visible in the first Pride Parade, they actually marched in the streets earlier that year for the first documented lesbian march on May 16, 1981. Look over here, look over there, lesbians are everywhere. That was the chant of over 200 women who marched from Robson Square in Vancouver to the West End Community Centre in Canada's first Lesbian Pride March, which took place on the weekend of the 5th Bicentennial Lesbian Conference.
Testing 2, this of course traditionally kicks off the start of the Pride Parade. The Dykes on Bikes have over 22 chapters and affiliations throughout the world.
And let's give a big Vancouver Pride. I've been organizing lesbian events since about 1971, 72. We organized the first Gay Women's Conference in Toronto in 1972, and I organized a newspaper called The Other Woman so that I could put lesbian content in it. And then, of course, organized lesbian and queer LGBTQ events at City Council on many occasions over the 6 years I was on council.
And one of the things that I learned really quickly was one day when I was taking a Virgin Voyage into a bar, I was stopped by my friend and said, no, you don't look for the door in the front. You look for the door in the side or in the back. And I went, oh, okay, learned lesson 1. And I found out that 20 years ago, we met behind closed doors and behind blacked out windows. That's what it was like to be gay, and that was the message that people had to internalize, that somehow you had to be ashamed of who you were and that you had to hide.
I remember in the first parade in 1981, there were about 500 of us marching down the street, sort of quiet. Maybe we were saying 2, 4, 6, 8 gays just as good as straight. That was the biggest noise we made. And I noticed that along the sidewalk, there were friends of ours, other gays, who walked along with us, but they just were afraid to be in the street walking in that parade. Because if they got into the camera view, there was a chance they would lose their job, or there was a chance they would be asked to move out of their apartments. But they were just as devoted as people who were in the street and most welcome, but it was sort of the closet parade.
You can sort of come out to friends and you can come out to family, but when you march in a parade, you come out to the entire world. And it is a different experience, and it's unique, empowering, and absolutely wonderful experience. And people get really hooked on it. I mean, you know, a lot of us have marched in each and every parade because it feels so good.
That first parade in 81 ended up in Alexandra Park. And it was a wonderful parade. David Soretta sang "We Shall Overcome," and the 500 of us sitting on the lawn took hands and swayed back and forth and sang along, and then pretty soon we were kneeling and putting our arms around each other, and pretty soon we were standing.
one of my books had been seized at the border. It happened to be The Young in One Another's Arms, which won the Canadian Authors Association Best Novel for 1978. And they're not exactly a radical crew. But because it was in a box of books going to a gay bookstore, it was seized along with the others. It was very useful publicity. We could mock what was going on. But you might pause and think, what is a Canadian writer doing having her books seized at the Canadian border? I mean, why are they coming into the country? Why aren't they going out? I mean, what kind of free trade deal is going on here?
Despite Little Sister's uphill battle with Canada Customs to share knowledge and stories from the queer community, they opened on Davie Street in 1983 on the second floor of a Thurlow Street house. That same year, they participated in the Pride Parade and have continued to be an important part of the LGBTQ+ community.
We definitely think it's homophobic. No other bookstore in Vancouver in Western Canada has the type of surveillance that we have by Customs Canada. Every time a book shipment comes in, I mean, the bells ring, and they all come down and they all look at it. It's delayed for several days at best. Most of it is seized. This doesn't happen to other bookstores.
Of sexual orientation,
families and friends of LGBT,
and gender identity.
Parents that are here to support their family members.
PFLAG Vancouver is an organization which was founded in 1989. It was founded by parents and friends of LGBT. And really what that means is these are people who advocate and educate those who may not be familiar with, what it means to be LGBT.
A very special thanks to Stan and Gertrude, founders of the Vancouver chapter.
Hi, I'm Gertrude Stevens, and this is my husband, Stan. And we have a daughter that's a lesbian, and we're very proud of her, as we are of everyone we've met so far. When she came out to us, it was a kind of a traumatic time, but we've gone through it and we're stronger for it. But when she came out, she was very worried that we weren't going to be there for her. And tell your story.
Well, the day I found out that she was a lesbian, I went to visit her at her house. And the first thing she said to me was, "Are you still my dad?" And because of that, now I want to tell all parents that they should love their children and accept them the way they are, that children should be able to count on their parents and not have to worry about whether they accept them or not.
Yes.
And so
they're the same people they were before this announcement. And come out, take pride, and support your children. And happy Pride Day, Vancouver.
Past fights for equality have fostered change.
I wish, like most of us here, wish that when we were their age, the young person today, that they'll support. Like Little Sisters is something that, like, we never ever dreamed would ever happen.
Yes.
Or a book where you could go and read families that'll get in a parade and back up their child that is gay. I mean, we're going a long way from St. Louis here. I mean, since Trudeau passed that little piece of legislation telling everybody, stay out of other people's bedrooms.
Hi folks, if you are just tuning in, welcome to Virtual Vancouver Pride. We are currently watching an amazing documentary called 40 Plus Years of Vancouver Pride History, and I'm learning so much. It's making me emotional.
I don't know about you all, but that wonderful couple, the PFLAG parents, that gave me all the feels.
Yeah, I had to go like this for sure. That was it's very beautiful and informative, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are.
And yes, and it's also been great to see so many of our pioneers, especially the ones that have moved on to do and aren't with us anymore. And we tip our wigs to all of them.
Yes. I like that. Tip our wigs.
Tip our wigs. Who is ready to win some prizes? Make sure you enter our photo contest by posting a pic of you in your Pride outfit, going about your everyday, wherever that may be. Sass it up, put on a filter, do whatever you want, be creative, and if you're going to the grocery store, checking out the recycling, waiting for the bus, chilling in your backyard. I think I just stepped on Kendall's lines.
No, you're
Is it
good,
me?
you're good.
Oh, whatever you're doing, we totally want to see you, so send those photos. We'd love to see it.
Yes, we miss you, Vancouver, and we miss seeing your beautiful faces. So remember to tag us at Vancouver Pride with the hashtag #MyEverydayPride. You have until Tuesday night to enter and until August 11th to get as many votes as possible.
But what can they win, Kendall?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Joan-E. 3 entries will be randomly drawn and will receive one of these prize packs. Ooh, why don't we go through it and see what's in here?
Sure.
We have a fabulous fanny pack.
And they're back in.
Oh, yes, they are. I wear one basically every day. We have a very sexy disco ball for all of your at-home pride parties.
Or on the go.
Yes, or at the recycling bin. We also have a fabulous t-shirt by Stanley Park Brewing. Ooh. This water bottle that I personally want one of these because I love these water bottles.
Oh, yes, a Pride water bottle.
Directs to keep everyone safe and happy
yes.
during the Pride season. What's this guy? Ooh, a Starbucks Around the Globe collection. Some fabulous VPS swag as well. Not limited to some pens, some Post-its, and a fabulous rainbow mask that I saw you were sporting today as well, right when you got in. Already the grand prize winner from this beautiful competition for the photo that has the most votes will receive a prize bag valued over $400. It also includes $300 in winner's gift cards, $100 from President's Choice, and mystery swag items in this really cute sauce strap.
Oh, right. You're going to model this for us.
Oh,
aren't you?
yes. I'm a supermodel, honey.
These are made, yes, you are. These are made by a local designer, Jasmine Walker, and so props to Jasmine. And we love them. And you just pop the ends on your sunglasses, and off you go. Wear them around your neck.
Yes.
Get a little bling around you.
Yes, you can see they come in these amazing little packages. And then you can put them on your sunglasses. They're just too fun, aren't they?
Totes.
I kind of feel like I could just wear them. I'm going to wear them until the next segment. Sure. Because I'm feeling it. Okay, it's time to get back to the show. But before we do, get out your phones because you can actually win a Pride Pack right now.
Right now. Be the first caller. I feel like we're doing like the Psychic Network or something.
Yes, totally.
Call me now. Be the first caller to reach us and name one performer who is being featured today at Sunset Beach Main Stage, which starts at 2 p.m.
All they have to do is call and name just one performer and they can win?
One performer.
Wow.
Easy peasy.
All you have to do is give us a call right now at 778-235-5982. That's
778-235-5982.
Oh, I've always wanted to be one of those. Call me now, girls. Yeah. Alrighty, guys, we'll be back in just a few minutes.
From now on, the first Monday in August will be known as Gay Lesbian Freedom Day in British Columbia.
Well, in 1991, we had an event at the O'Reilly Cafe, which I managed. And after the first year of a very successful year, wanted to give the people something different and a way to say thank you to everybody. So I brought the Britannia around. We parked it on the dock, which was like toothpicks for this vessel, and had a special platform boarded, and away we went, and that was the first year.
I came to Vancouver in 1990, and Celebration 90 was on when I got here. I wasn't out, and that's when I kind of looked around, and I was like, you know, totally intrigued, of course. I'd always known I was queer, right? And then in 1991, I decided I would attend because I came out in that year. Watching the parade, I saw a sea of whiteness, a sea of maleness, and I felt unrepresented. To be queer, to me, to be LGBTQ, meant to be white, because that's the only image of queerness we ever saw. Marching in it was my way of interrupting the parade more than being included. I didn't want to be included in something that I saw as something that didn't really belong to me, and also it was a kind of settler activity, right? It was something, it wasn't as political in 1991 as I was. So I wanted something more, but I knew that visibility was very important because it had been to me. Had I not seen another person of color, I wouldn't have come out. In 1993, we had the first lesbian of color and Indigenous lesbian float. And it was the first float that was a solidarity between Indigenous queers and queers of color, largely women and trans. And that was, it went practically unnoticed.
You're watching the 1996 Pride Parade in Vancouver, BC.
My name is Karina Antipas.
And Doug Austin, thanking you all for joining us here for the 1996 coverage of the Pride Parade in Vancouver. And now we see the BC Transit employees as they head by. They're in a vintage bus. It's a 1947 Fagiol or something. It's spelled F-A-G-E-O-L. That's the name of the bus. Actually, it's pronounced Fagiol, but I just thought I'd throw that in. It's a gas bus used by BC Electric and then BC Hydro. And there they go off into the distance, gay and lesbian employees of BC Transit. First time they were in the parade, so let's hear it for them. That's excellent.
Right here, as we mentioned earlier, are the Vancouver Police, first time ever represented in the Gay and Lesbian Pride Parade.
Very good.
Here in Vancouver.
And it's nice to get some, and we are getting some support out there regarding the police, but it has kind of gotten into
a lot of people clapping as they go by.
Happy Pride Day, Vancouver. Be very, very safe, and God loves you.
The rainbow flags were flown for the first time on Denman Street at Beach Avenue in 1996. And they continue to fly over English Bay at every Pride.
This year, the GVNCS is celebrating 20 years of Aboriginal community service to the city of Vancouver. They are a fundraising group offering unique opportunities for Natives and Two-Spirited people.
We joined the first parade. We actually had the privilege of having Pride wait for our event, our Passing of a Legacy, which is our annual fundraiser, which elects our chief and princess. They were very interested in that and said, well, we should wait for that to happen. The relationship was built then, you know, it's like, okay, we weren't doing blessings, we were just participating, okay? And we've been involved since the beginning. And we're still involved, but now, for about 7 years, I believe it is, they've been asking us to do the blessings at the Pride events. So that relationship and partnership has been in place for this long, and it's just a privilege, you know, so that's what we do.
There's Joe Average. Happy Pride, Joe.
The Davie Village was coined in 1999. Banners were commissioned by local artist Joe Average to commemorate this historic moment.
Any of my art, if there's a human in it or any sort of creature in it, I try and keep them gender neutral always. I don't like to assign any race to them either. Usually the skin tone I use is like this orange color. I call it my Esperanto orange.
Come on! Let's go! Let's get soaking wet! I know you wanna go down!
Attended by thousands, the Pride Ball started in 2002, including acts like Pepper Mache, Kevin Aviance, and Carol Pope. Same-sex marriage became legal in British Columbia on July 8, 2003. 2 years later, on July 20th, the Civil Marriage Act was proclaimed into law in Canada. Vancouver Pride Society's then president, John Boychuk, and partner Paul Allen became the first gay couple to marry in Canada.
Now, by the authority vested in me by the province of British Columbia, I very happily pronounce you husbands, spouses, partners in life, truly.
The first Gay Day at Playland at the Pacific National Exhibition took place in 2003. It featured an outdoor extravaganza performed by Vancouver's drag community.
You're performing here at Gay Day. This isn't your first year. You've been doing it with me forever, haven't you?
I have done it a few times, and I love doing it every time.
Anyway, what's your best thing about Gay Day here at Playland?
My best thing about Gay Day at Playland, there are so many wonderful people here wearing tight pants.
Oh, we're going there, are we?
We are going there and not coming back.
Whereas all individuals seek recognition and respect of their human and civil rights, which are accorded to citizens in a free and democratic society, regardless of race, culture, creed, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. And whereas the City of Vancouver has been a pioneer in celebrating Pride...
In addition to issuing their annual Pride Day proclamation, Vancouver City Councillors made local history when they hoisted the rainbow flag over City Hall in 2003 to honor Pride.
The established hangout in Vancouver was the Castle Hotel beer parlor that goes back even into the time of the Second World War. And it was notorious across the country as the place to go in Vancouver, but it was very, very closeted. You didn't flip a wrist or hold hands or do anything that was that would draw attention to the fact that you're gay. You just sort of cruise the place with your eyes and hope to glom onto somebody else's eyes and make a connection. So it wasn't until I would think probably the late 60s that it became that there were social places to go to.
The legendary Terry Wallace was one of the founders of Pride in Vancouver. Since 2004, Vancouver Pride has honored Terry's contribution with a memorial breakfast.
It was important to the board to recognize Terry's contribution to the Pride Society and to Pride celebrations in Vancouver overall. You know, the way they did Pride is totally different from the way we did Pride, which is totally different with the way that's being done now.
Today is our 10th year anniversary in honoring our founders for the Terry Wallace Breakfast.
The Stonewall Festival began in the 1980s in East Vancouver and ran through the 90s. To commemorate 35 years of the Stonewall riots, in 2004, the Stonewall Festival was revived, with City Hall inviting activists to tell their stories. 1 year later, the name changed to East Side Pride.
This event is placed on this weekend to commemorate Stonewall, and also to really try and recognize that within Stonewall, a lot of the focus is often on like the gay male community and how rights have developed from there. But at Stonewall, what happened was the forerunners in the Stonewall riots were trans women, were drag queens and people who are gender nonconforming. And as this is in East Van and in an area which is comprised of a lot more gender nonconforming folks, we want to really acknowledge that and celebrate that in this space this weekend.
I have really fond memories of going to East Side Pride with a big
squad of people and putting down all the blankets and getting all of our food and really hanging out hard and like wrestling and tickling each other and going for ice cream and bringing it back. And so much laughter. I have so many laughing memories of Pride as well. I also really loved that we had this really great opportunity to let our freak fly in a way that isn't really possible the rest of the year because there isn't enough critical mass to make it okay to wear that really, whatever it is, outfit. It's like so colorful, it's so sparkly, it's so short, it's so naked, it's like whatever that outfit is. I love that we can do that during Pride, and everybody is down for the adventure. I remember my first Pride I was taken to by a Black person, and just being so shocked, having come from Edmonton, that there were all these people on the street, and drag queen Simone running out into the middle of the street, stopping traffic and performing. And I remember at that point, I'd never seen a Black drag queen quite like her. I had experience of one Black drag queen in my life, which was somebody that was in Edmonton, and seeing this amazing human being coming across the street, blocking traffic. And I was just sort of amazed that these things were happening. I was just turned 30, and I had not come from a city that was as out as Vancouver, and so I marveled at the spectacle. And it was sort of around that time that I also came out as a kinky leather person, and so to see that identity on the street as well was amazing to me. Like, Pride means a lot to me.
In 2008, Vancouver Pride saw the addition of the fabulous Davie Street Party.
The street party probably took 2 years of planning before it was actually implemented in the way that we sort of know it now. The very first time we brought this up, it was Jim Diva, actually, who was involved in this and bringing all the bars together for a big conversation about potentially bringing the bars in to also host the street party. That didn't work. There was another year of conversations about permitting, and we didn't want high fences, and that didn't work. And eventually we just thought, we've got to do the party and put in the restrictions that the city wants, and we'll have to deal with it as time goes on. So that very first year, there was the high barriers, and you couldn't see into the street party. There was huge long lineups of people paying. We didn't have the system set up. We didn't know that almost 10,000 people would show up.
Share Vancouver is a social and support group for LGBT South Asians.
The first year Share Vancouver was founded was in 2008, and we went with a bang. We created a Pride of Bollywood float. We had drag queens and dressed up in saris. We had Bollywood music playing, Bhangra music playing. We had some top 40 pop songs. We had a colorful float. We had drums, Indian drums. We had a live DJ. It was the most colorful, most amazing float. And I remember when we were on this float and we were going down the Pride Parade, and there was thousands and thousands of people cheering, and we saw the faces of these brown people in the audience, these South Asian people in the audience, and they've never seen a Bollywood float or a South Asian float before in a Pride Parade ever. And here we are, we're the biggest, loudest, baddest float. And, it was really quite an eye-opening, shocking experience for a lot of people. And that year, in 2008, in the Vancouver Pride Society, we were the first queer South Asian group to ever march with a float in the Vancouver Pride Parade, ever. I mean, ever. I think we were the first queer Sikh organization, and that made news.
Last door, clean, sober, and proud contingent. In 1969,
Clean, Sober, and Proud is a recovery float that is going to be in the Vancouver Pride Parade, and it's also a recovery dance that's happening. It's the first for Clean, Sober, and Proud to have a recovery dance during Vancouver Pride. This whole thing's put on by volunteers. We've raised money by volunteers and fundraising so we can pay for everything. And now it's turned into not just a float, but we approached the Pride Society if they'd like to get involved to officially hold a dance. And they said yes, so we have the Pride Ball Sunday night after the parade.
Strong societies are built by connections made between different people. Connecting lets us grow as individuals and changes us as a collective. It's us building each other up. This is something we're pretty good at, but we can always try harder. Because these are the connections that make our society stronger. Let's connect. Let's accept.
Welcome back, everybody, and congratulations to Jen from the Vancouver area on winning a prize pack. We have some amazing performances coming up for you afterwards, including my fabulous co-host, Kendall Gender, who's going to be performing later today.
Oh, absolutely, I am. I do have a performance coming up later today, so make sure you stay tuned after the parade. And thank you to our presenting partner, TD Bank, Heritage Canada, and the province of BC for supporting us with our virtual programming this year.
My performance will be me walking up on Davy Street trying to pretend my feet so hurting my high heels. We're still giving away prizes today. We are holding a watch party contest. You can win one of 2 prize packs with fun goodies in them.
We love fun goodies, don't we, girls? If you are hosting a physically distanced patio party, a backyard barbecue with your bubble, or holding a virtual gathering, show us a picture of your crew tuning into the programming today. You can find details on how to submit your photos at vancouverpride.ca/contests.
Your back alley fiesta might just...
Yes, it can win you lots of fun things this time.
We're going to be giving away over $200 worth of goodies from our partners at Winners HomeSense and Marshalls.
Oh, absolutely. It is time to get back to our show, so stick around. The virtual Pride Parade is up shortly.
To kick off Pride Week, Vancouver unveiled Canada's first permanent rainbow-colored crosswalk on July 29, 2013.
My absolute pleasure to be your MC for the 3rd Annual Pride Legacy Awards.
We're really trying to capture the stories of our community, of the unsung heroes, and of the people that are really building Pride.
It's how I try to live day to day. Doesn't matter what you've said, doesn't matter what you've done. It will matter how you've made people feel.
I am so proud to stand up here in solidarity and in connection with all of you so that we can continue this work and begin to celebrate the next chapter of Pride.
You know, when we think about a lifetime achievement, it's not necessarily for us as, for me specifically, it's not the Cree way to talk about what we achieved because I'm still here. But when I look around in a two-spirited community and see them coming out wearing the regalia and still standing strong as being within that community of gay, lesbian, transgender, aka two-spirited people, I feel that, yes, we've done some work then, and I feel all right.
In 2015, Vancouver Pride introduced Trans Equality Now, the 10 Pledge. To participate in the parade, participants were required to sign and affirm their support for trans communities.
And I'm both excited and proud to announce a new campaign with the Vancouver Pride Society called Trans Equality Now, or 10. It's a public awareness campaign designed to encourage and inspire everyday citizens to stand up for the rights of trans and gender variant members of our community.
The right of any transgender person who wishes to have reconstructive surgery or hormonal replacement therapy, that this should be part of Medicare and they shouldn't have to worry about it regardless of where they live.
The City of Vancouver flew the trans flag for the first time over City Hall in 2015.
Our conversation this morning will focus on trans inclusion. What's next?
While we trans and gender variant people are not yet, operative word, explicitly protected in the Human Rights Code of Canada or within the BC Human Rights Code, there are a number of particular exciting moments that are occurring right now and here in Vancouver.
Another reason why I'm very proud to say that Council unanimously supported my motion last week on trans rights. I was very thankful to see, and that motion will help Vancouver to be more inclusive of our transgender residents, and it really expresses Vancouver's full support for equal protections for trans people in all provincial and federal legislation. So we call on the provincial and federal government to ensure that all of their legislation is recognizing trans rights.
And we're also very excited to hear that the new Davie Street Plaza is being named after the late Jim Diva.
To celebrate Jim's life, to acknowledge...
Myself, along with Ron Stipp and Dean Malone, we were all members of the LGBTQ2+ Advisory Committee with City Hall, and we were working on the Davie Village revitalization and what we could do to make it look a little bit better and spruce it up. And once it got started, regrettably, a dear friend of mine and many, many people in our community, Jim Diva, passed away from an unfortunate accident. And no greater name, comes to mind when you think in terms of this particular area. He was always running up and down the street, and he was so much a part of Davie Village and cared so much about human rights and LGBTQ rights and his little area where his business was, where Little Sisters was. So I sent off an email to City Hall, and the next thing you know, it became Jim Diva Plaza. No better fitting, no more fitting a name to be attached to this.
Almost immediately after his death, people were looking for a tangible way to remember Jim, and so that his legacy wouldn't be forgotten. So the city came forward, and it was a unanimous vote because everyone knows what Jim did in this city and are appreciative of it.
The Right Honourable Justin Trudeau was the first sitting Canadian Prime Minister to march in the Vancouver Pride Parade. This momentous occasion took place in 2016.
This is just what Canada is. We're a country that understands that our differences are our greatest strength, and how we pull together as a community in respect, in equality, in friendship is how you build a better country, better community, a better world. The fact is there are places around the world that need a little more tolerance, but Canada doesn't need tolerance. Canada needs love and acceptance. We're beyond tolerance. That's what Pride's all about.
And today we start on a new path, a Human Rights Commission for British Columbia that will fight discrimination, it will educate and remove systemic barriers, it will identify and eliminate inequality, and I've asked our Attorney General to take on the task of renewing the Commission with the help of his Parliamentary Secretary, Ravi Kahlon.
As the member of the legislature for the West End, where we are today, it gives me incredible pleasure that we were chosen as the place to launch the restoration of the Human Rights Commission. This community has been a leading voice for human rights for many years. It's auspicious that we're doing this right before the Pride weekend because, of course, Pride is both a celebration of how far we've come, but also a protest against intolerance, against hatred, against discrimination that pushes people into closets, that pushes people into places where violence continues and where they cannot reach their full potential.
During the year between Pride 2016 and 2017, Pride embarked on a community consultation process and gathered feedback from members of our communities. This feedback allowed Pride to collect ideas and develop a new path forward.
With the conversation around police participation in Pride, Black Lives Matter brought that conversation to the forefront here in Canada, in Vancouver, in North America in 2016 and 2017. And we set out to make an informed decision about what we wanted to do and what that would look like. So a lot of that was listening, and we did a lot of listening to folks who had opinions about that on all sides of the issue. We heard from elders in the community who worked really hard way back in the day to have police actually come on board and be part of the parade. We listened to queer and trans police officers where pride is really important for them to show up as themselves in a work setting. We also heard from marginalized voices who don't feel safe around police and don't want them to be part of the Pride Parade because that's the one day where everyone should feel safe to be who they are. So we took in all that information, and our board made the decision in 2017 to have police participate as City of Vancouver's entry, but no uniforms, no weapons, and no marked vehicles. And it was a compromise, and it was where we landed at that time. And it worked for some people, but it didn't work for everyone. So where we've ended up today is we have asked police not to participate at all, because really what it drills down to is some of us in queer community have a sense of safety and belonging and inclusion in Canadian society, but not all of us do. And so until everyone feels that way, we need to listen to those most marginalized voices.
The Musqueam Indian Band shows its community and two-spirited pride. Happy Pride!
The 2018 Pride Parade marked the first time the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations all had their own floats in Vancouver's Pride Parade.
And of course, we also have, coming up next, it's a beautiful, lots of colors, Squamish Nation. Squamish Nation, one love.
And we also have the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. Let's hear it for them. Give them a big round of applause, everybody.
The way that our journey has gone and the amount of people that we know under the LGBTQ and all of the affiliates and the sponsors and everybody know us, you know, and know who we are. And, you know, so when it comes down to bringing the nations in, we wanted them to get to know us too, and for us to get to know them.
And don't forget, it takes over 200 volunteers.
It's 2020. Pride is evolving. We're all still listening. And the future is an unwritten book.
How do I see the future of Pride? That's a really, really good question. As much fun as it is, I would hope one day we don't need to have a Pride Parade. I really, really do. I would hope that one day we are fully accepted and there are no more, LGBTQ youth in trouble or suicides. There are no more trans deaths. There are, men and women and whatever in the gender binary can walk down the street hand in hand without having to worry about whether or not, they're going to be a victim of violence, online shaming, bullying. It's an interesting world that seems to be getting uglier in some ways, but in other ways, we're kind of becoming more free. We're not putting up with it as much, and we're fighting back. So, like I said, I think there'll always be a need for pride, as long as there are LGBTQ brothers and sisters around the world, that are being turfed off roofs, that have to fight for every inch of life, that have to fight for things that we just take for granted now. There's so much work still to be done, and that falls on the shoulders of people like us who have the freedoms that we do as queer people here now.
Pride is about providing a place where everyone can belong. No matter who you are, come as you are. If you want to dress up like a unicorn, dress up like a unicorn. If you want to come in leather chaps and do all that, you can do that too, but you're allowed to come as you are. And you always have a place to belong with Vancouver Pride.
we are actually in a time of shift, and that we can find a way moving forward into the future to come back together again as queer people, because although it seems like we've won all the battles, I think what we've won is a way to assimilate, not necessarily to be ourselves. We've earned the right to be unmolested, but I don't know that we've actually gained the ability to be agents in our lives, within our jobs, within our families. I think we still have that work to go. And if we can get through this piece of work that we're doing right now, then I look forward to us taking up some of those fights again too, because there will always be work, and we owe it to these young people coming up.
Thank you for having us. For those of you who are having a troublesome or challenging Pride, or it's not your favorite day, we've got you. Kendall and I are sending out our love to you.
Yes.
We, of course, want to thank everyone who's working so hard today, particularly the people in this room right here, that are working while we're all enjoying Pride. So thanks to all the volunteers and the staff of Vancouver Pride Society.
I couldn't agree more. And just remember, Pride is an internal feeling. Whether you're virtual or you're with someone right now, it's all a feeling inside. So from both of us here, goodbye and happy Pride.